I'm very interested in finding out how you got here with this one, because it's a very
Mhm.
unique methodology behind it, I think, right?
It is. Yeah, I was thinking about when I came out of being GM and distiller for Cascade Hollow, and they started to kind of widen my aperture, Stitzelweller Distillery obviously is the first place I was, like, the most curious about, you know, let me get my hands on that, like, I can't wait to start poking around, and Blade& and Bow obviously being the brand that existed that was out of that place was the first one, so I've been thinking a lot about those and sort of coming to learn about that brand, which I wasn't really involved in before, just, like, tangentially, and it was quite interesting to me. It felt like a really natural place for an idea I've actually had for quite a while that I've been trying to make real, and it's this particular approach to making whiskey, and it just sort of came together when I was like, "Oh, yeah, like, Blade& and Bow has this Solera component, and it talks a lot about Soleraing, which is what I was hoping to do, obviously coming at it from a really different direction." So my thoughts had been around, people kept used to they would always ask me, like, "When are you gonna do a cask finish? Like, are you gonna do a cask finish bourbon? Everyone wants a cask finish bourbon. Can I have a cask finish bourbon?" And I used to always say, "Why would I do a cask finish in a world where Bill Lumsden exists? Like, I'm never gonna be as good at it as he is. Like, there's just no, like, there's not for me. I don't, I wanna be the best at something, and I cannot in a world where Bill Lumsden is out here cask finishing." So, it's something I've always been sort of joking about, but also thinking about, and, in American whiskey, I think I like some of the cask finishes, I mean, fortified wines are beautiful, port is beautiful, sherry is beautiful, like, there's what's not to like? I tried a honey cask finish that I tried to give a double gold medal to, like at ACSA, like there's some beautiful stuff out there, but I think a lot of them I found to either be really heavy-handed, like they wanted to make absolutely sure that that this is a port finished whiskey, and like that's what it tastes like, or because you're putting a relatively high proof spirit into oak that maybe only had like a lower ABV wine in it previously, and you're doing it in a really hot environment, sometimes it can be really over extracted. Like you had the nice character of the finish, but then you also had, a bit of drying sort of bitterness. Yeah, that was unpleasant. Like, and it would often be kind of surprising because you can't smell it, but once you on the palate, it can hit really hard. And so I was thinking about how do I get to what I like about those things and avoid what I don't like about those things. And so there had a couple of thoughts that led me to this place. Number one was using really large format vats would be a really great way to manage for the over extraction. So the bigger the container, the lower that like surface area to volume
Right.
ratio. So if you put it in a really big container, you don't have like as much oak, sort of per gallon of spirit. So I was looking for large format vats, things like cognac vats and if you've ever seen those big, like, port vats for vintage these, like, large format containers, and then I was also thinking quite a bit about the Solera process and sort of using these vats. It wouldn't make sense to buy this, like, $30,000 vat and then use it one time,
Right.
um, to use it to, like, Solera things through, to do that sort of fractional blending where you let the whiskey really evolve over time, and when you're buying these large format vintage vats, I only wanted to buy ones that had actually been used in the production process of whatever was made before, not just like seasoned for 60 days or something, but had been in use to
Right.
make whatever the product was before. And so using them as like a basis, right, for this Solera process. But then I didn't want to just use one because now you've just done like I don't know, a slightly fancier, maybe cognac finish, I wanted to be more subtle than that, more sophisticated than that, so and there's more flavors that I wanted to pursue, like, one thing, like, just port isn't multidimensional enough, I didn't feel, so leveraging multiple of those and being able to be really selective about procuring just the highest quality vats that I could find. And then being a blender and blending the marks together out of those different Soleras. So it's relatively complicated, but what I was doing to make this was a blend of 12-year-old bourbon that's been aged at Stitzel-Weller. So blending at least 12-year-old barrels, dumping that whiskey together, and then using that to start the Solera process through each of these vats. I had cognac vats, I had Bordeaux ovals, I had muscatel pipes, I had big port vat, like lots of different types. And then as the Solera goes through each of those vats, it basically I'm filling a tank with like the product of a cognac vat and the product of a port vat. And then getting ready to make the final batch, I'm sampling all of those and blending them together to create the optimal whiskey. So it's very multi-stage. It's really like lots of interventions from me, but as a blender, it felt like the best way to make sort of diverse flavor marks so that I could ultimately make a really interesting and sophisticated and balanced whiskey. You know, like we tend to have I mean, bourbons can be beautiful and they can be all over the map, but sometimes it's a little bit like only coloring with the color red. You know, like you only have new oak and a lot of corn and like so it's in a bit of a narrow place. Unlike, you know, Scotland has peaty and Highland, you know, they have so many different flavors. How can I make a bit of that myself to then have lots of really different marks to blend with? And this was a way into that to make a whiskey that, you know, is still probably not as sophisticated and beautiful as Bill would do, but it's my best shot, you know?
Well, just the methodology that goes into it, there's so many touch points where it could go
Right.
sideways, and to have that level of control and that patience in how you put it together, I think that is what makes you like one of the masters on the scene right now. You were talking about how some cask finishes just kind of they just go, and
Yeah.
sometimes I wanted to put a cask finished out there, so I or a cask strength or a I
Mhm.
had this it's interesting, right? Because sometimes it's I could get my hand on this,
Yeah.
and then they put it out because they had access to it, which isn't always the right way to think either, you know. I've
Or
got
just like,
access
"Oh,
to
I
a
think
bunch
this
of
is nice, so I put
yeah,
it in a bottle," which is a perfectly reasonable way to make whiskey, but I was
sure.
reaching higher, you know?
Exactly. Because then sometimes, like you were saying, you'll get the final product where it is interesting,
Yeah.
but it is conflicted, or
Yes.
there are things in it that go against themselves, like you were over drying of the tongue, or
Yep.
sometimes the sugars will take over and you'll just get the one and done, where if you go back for more, you get almost that second bowl of cereal in the palate and you just
Yes.
can't go any further. So the
Well,
patience that
interesting is
this
not
sounds
the
like took.
same thing as excellent, right?
Yes, yes. Very well said. Very well said. Uh, j- just because it took a long time doesn't always and it sucks
Yes.
too, right? Because it does, because you could put a lot of time into something and it still not be exactly what you want. Uh, if we're gonna go like deep in philosophical, I can't say it, so we're not gonna go that deep down the rabbit hole. But like there should be more of that editing in ourselves in the current landscape, where you can just put anything out there all the time, always, and not have to worry about, you know, the repercussions or pulling it back. Good whiskey is at the end of the day that bottom line where this is good. This is the whiskey
Yeah.
speaks for itself.
That's something I really like actually about working for Diageo, you know, working for a big company, which I initially, you know, I never thought that I would find my place here in a company like this as a whiskey maker. I really came out of craft distilling. I thought of myself that way, but there's such a huge freedom that comes from, you know, essentially being like the lint in Diageo's couch. You know, like that. If I don't release exactly on time, you know, my whiskey, like I'm in like the fourth decimal place of what they're trying to accomplish. So it gives me a lot of freedom to be a stickler about the whiskey, you know, and to make it exactly the way I want to, and to say, no, you know, we're not releasing this many cases, we're releasing this many cases because that's what I want, because that's what I'm happy with. And, you know, it makes it a little easier for me to actually really be a bit of a purist, which is, you know, was surprising to me, but it's something I'm really grateful for now. And I think we're all benefiting from with this whiskey.
Well, it goes back to your background, though, you know, like you
Yes.
come from the Indies,
Yes.
but you have the pedigree of your, you know, your education. And anybody, we've not talked in a minute or two. Walk me
Yeah.
through a little bit the origin story that is your path to Blade and Bow, your path to Diageo.
Yeah, I did. So I started, like you said, I got a chemical engineering degree, um, mainly because my guidance counselor kind of implied that I lacked the discipline to be successful at that. It's like, I'll show you. Um, and like just stubborned my way into like one of the most difficult degrees. But thus is the power of my stubbornness, as anyone who works with me currently will tell you. And probably my husband would have something to say about that as well. But then I started in the environmental engineering industry. So I thought I was going to like save the planet. It turned out I was mostly being like lowered into New York City sewers, you know? Um, yeah. So, and
I
like, can I
forgot
tell
about
you,
that. You spent
the
time with
size of the
yeah.
spiders in
Oh,
wastewater treatment plants
oh,
is horrifying.
oh.
Yeah, that was not a place where I could thrive. And so I started with Kings County Distillery. So I was living in Brooklyn, and they got their license. They were the first to be licensed post prohibition in New York. So that was 2010. Showed up there as like a perky little mid 20 something, like the day after they got their license, like I will work here now. And they're like, we can't pay you. I'm like, that seems fine. Like what could go wrong? And I became their master blender, which is hilarious and absurd because I think we had like 2 barrels at that time. But started winning awards, got some notoriety. Obviously still had my day job, because our 2 barrels made on our five-gallon stills that we bought from hillbillystills.com was not paying anyone's rent. But then I became a full-time distiller when Dave Pickerel hired me to work with him in his consulting company. Legend, the man, the myth, the legend, taught me so much. And then in 2016, I moved to Ireland to be the commissioning engineer for Tullamore Dew. I lived there for 2 years, which is really a reversion to that kind of, like, pure engineering role, which was super fun, and also, if folks really know me, they know I'm also a horse girl. I'm an official horse girl, and so I moved over to Ireland with my dog, and I came back with my dog, a horse, and a cat, in 2018 when I moved to Tennessee to be the general manager and distiller for Cascade Hollow. So I looked after just George Dickel for a few years, and then a few years ago, Diageo kind of opened up my responsibilities, and now I get to poke my hands in on all of our American whiskeys.
I mean, yeah, that title is just so perfect for you. Director of
It's
American
wild.
Whiskey, liquid development and capabilities, like all of the things that allow like go have fun. Like if you were
Yes.
like the acronym for that is just GHF.
I think that's a great idea. We've been trying to come up with, like, a less of a mouthful version of the title and, like, just, like, fun makers, but yeah. Mhm. It's not
Cascade
bad. We'll
Funmaker.
work we'll workshop that, but
Hey,
yeah.
a Cascade Funmaker sounds pretty damn awesome. And you get to Diageo, and I mean, just a hit right out of the gate with the bottled and bond,
Yeah.
Dickel, like really brought Dickel back to the whiskey conversation in terms of people that maybe had written it off, came back and were like, holy crap, the flavor. Um,
Yeah.
right
That
after
whiskey
I,
changed everything. That whiskey
oh,
changed my whole
dude,
life.
it was so nuts how you guys went right back to rock star status with so many of the fickle whiskey fans where
Yes.
full circle though, because everybody just wants good. Like at the end of
Yeah.
the day, it
Don't we
doesn't
all?
really, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
a funny
Yeah, that
story.
was wild. That was we weren't even gonna go to Whiskey Fest that year, and, like,
Right. Then you
yeah, they had
started
to
winning
call
stuff.
my boss and be like, "Hey, like, could she maybe go? You guys wanna go?" Yeah, that was incredible. I think my mom told every single person in that ballroom that her daughter made the number 1 whiskey in the world.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
After you and I spoke the last time, my buddy Johnny Hobbs, he for my birthday, he had bought me a bottle of the Dickel bottled and bond. And because in North Carolina, like
I
pandemic
love that.
time period, man, like you remember, no, but you couldn't get a lot of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And he had heard me and you talk, and he knew I fancied it. So he got me a bottle of it for my birthday post pandemic, and
That's so nice.
forgot to no, this story has a horrible ending. The he forgot to give it to me.
Oh,
So
no.
as I'm leaving, as I'm responsibly getting into the car to have it take me home, he tries to do the thing, don't toss the baby. And there's like that moment of like a soap, it is like a cartoon soap where it's just like going right through everybody's hands as multiple people try to catch it, and then curse splash,
No.
and just
I mean,
just
that's tragic, but a depletion is a depletion. I'll take it, you know?
Well, yeah, that might be the silver lining of this whole story,
Yeah,
Pete. You know what he did? He went and bought another bottle and he gave it to me the next time
absolutely.
he saw me.
Absolutely. I didn't tell you, I've been secretly greasing them up, to try and yeah.
So actually a great story. Two for the you got a twofer right there.
I mean, this sounds like a beautiful story to me. Like, what I'm hearing is great. I'm sad for you.
Oh man. And the start of your time with Diageo also had that innovation shine through. You had Cascade Moon,
Oh,
which
yeah,
was
that was
just a
so much
freaking,
fun.
oh
So
my God,
fun.
dude. I've still got a little bit of that first one. Uh
Gotta
uh
drink those. They don't, like when you have that much
yeah.
air, when you have that much air in a bottle, like they won't stay
They
nice.
won't, yeah, they won't last forever. You're right. I should
Mm-mm,
probably do that
mm-mm.
as soon as we're
You
done
should.
talking today.
You probably should.
I mean,
I
can
mean,
you
they
think of a better
do
occasion?
if you do really wanna be, like, bougie about it, they make small decanters. So, like, if you really wanna be extra, you could decant it into, like, a small container, but
Oh,
I would suggest drinking it because
I've got
that's what
so many small decanters. I can literally Godzilla around the second half of the studio and just lord over all of the tiny bottles that I have sitting around.
that's a great vision.
Yeah. You don't even need AI. You can just picture all of the things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you opened up, they expanded your role. You got the super cool fun maker title,
Yes,
and Blade and Bowed it, man. Like tell me a
yes,
little bit, I love the backstory of Blade and Bow. We were at the distillery in Kentucky 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. Walk me through how you got involved and why it interested you so much to be involved with this brand.
I think no one is actually more obsessed with the history of American whiskey than a craft distiller because pre-prohibition is the last time that the US had, like, many, many small distilleries all over, so we all cling to that legend of, like, "See, there is room for us," like, "We will be okay." So I think there's no one more obsessed with that bit of piece of history than a craft distiller, and so I already went in, like, just really curious about the history of Stitzelweller Distillery, and obviously then also in modern times. I mean, the mythology around that place, is just legend. And so I was very curious to have an opportunity to actually dig into it and maybe try and do some work to like separate fact from fiction and, start to dig into that mythology. And, we've talked before, I'm sure I've said to you, my phrase of like, I used to think that this industry was, 80% science and 20% art, and that I would like engineer my way to a perfect whiskey. And I have been since deeply humbled, and I now know that it's the opposite. It's 80% art. It's really hard to do good science on whiskey, but that didn't stop me from fully reverting to my like engineer self when I first got to Stitzel. Like, I will uncover the secret, like I just I don't know but it got into my head that there must be something, about this place that is, like, special, and I'm gonna dig, and I'm gonna read, and I, went and hired Noah Rothman, a great friend of mine, who has the patience to, like, listen to the oral histories and read all the things and go to the library, and I was like, "You must help me find it, the secret."
I'm
With
picturing
my
the two of
ears.
you on like a
Oh.
national treasure poster, like with the torch and somebody holding like an old whiskey recipe as you go down into the mines of
Yeah, I
Stitzelweller.
mean, like, in actual fact, we're sorting through, like, endless file boxes, which were mostly full of, like, the bazillion labels that United Distillers had, but, and also weirdly, like, old boxes of rum. There was some really weird stuff in there, but I was determined to hunt down this secret. Um, Not that there is one. There isn't one, right? Like that's the like unfortunate punchline is of course there's not one. But I found it quite interesting as I dug in. I know it's like sorry that like if everyone was dialing in like the secret of Stitzel-Weller, like haha, there isn't one.
But isn't
But
that the cool part about whiskey in
well, that's
2026?
it, right? Which like I knew that going in. I was telling everyone that, but I couldn't help myself. And the thing that struck me the most was obviously I was quite curious about that kind of 70s and 80s distillation period because that's the whiskey that became really famous, right? Like the stuff that would have been 20 years old, in the late 90s through the early 2000s would have been distilled at that time. And so I was really specifically looking at that era of Stitzel-Weller. And I think what struck me was the way the distillery ran by that time was actually not that different or really in any way different than a distillery I might build today. They had a hammer mill. They were using pretty commercially available grains. They were using commercial yeast, like pretty standard matching and fermentation procedures, pretty standard distillation procedures. Like it, obviously their quality control was really good, but there wasn't some special gem inside the distillery that I could see. And one thing that was interesting though is I know we always associate Stitzel-Weller with wheated bourbon, but I know that they also made rye bourbon all the way through their history, all the way up into the 80s. So that was pretty interesting little nugget. Um, and then the more I got to know that place, the more I started to think that actually, if there's anything that you could point to and say, this is distinct, this is special about kind of modern era Stitzel-Weller distillery, it was the warehouses. And I think you're starting to see that. I certainly think you see that in the 12-year-old Solera Reserve, although it's hard to parse out because there's so many flavor contributors. But the ability to push age without dropping complexity, I think is a function of the construction of these warehouses. And I was actually well into it when I learned that Frederick Stitzel had patented this warehouse design. They're very airy. They have a lot of windows. One of the things I remember I said to Noah when he first started doing this research for me is there was a myth about them opening and closing the windows every day of all the 15 warehouses, and I said to him, "It's like, there's no fucking way. Like, no one would do that. Like, that's absurd. I don't believe it." And then he found multiple oral histories confirming that they absolutely did do that, which I thought was bonkers. But the airflow that these warehouses are able to achieve, I think, really makes a difference in being able to achieve higher ages while maintaining the structural integrity of the barrel and still going to these really high ABVs that people want. Like Dickel also could push into higher age ranges, I think, but that was because we had low rick houses, so you're kind of only running the bottom floor, and we tried to downwards improve over time. So again, you could push age numbers, but it was a different flavor profile. And like Stitzel lets me get up into these like high ABVs, really big punchy bourbon, but still some stuff that's pretty nice to drink at pretty high ages. Um, obviously the Beta and Bow 30-year-old, Stitzel Reserve 24-year-old, Stitzel Reserve 31-year-old, like you can't obviously dump everything at that age and expect it to be that good, but there's a surprising percentage. I would expect a 0% of the 31-year-old whiskey on our site to be drinkable, and so to find even 10 or 15% of it that I like was pretty surprising.
Well, you'll be happy to hear that I was at a you may have been there when you were in Charlotte, bar called Ben 110, and
Yeah.
he had gotten the most Andy had gotten the most recent Blade and Bow, and I got to watch it get cracked. Of course, me and Andy might have sampled a little bit of it as well. But I got to watch the first person to order it. And
Oh, that's awesome. What
I
did they
didn't
think?
watch them like, hey, I'm watching you. I kind of like me and Andy just kind of did some market research and stood back and listened without interfering and just like when everybody saw Zoolander make Blue Steel, like how they
Yeah.
shot that, where like you
Mhm.
just saw everybody in the crowd going, "It's beautiful." Like watching the dude who's of course telling his buddies everything about it as he's about to take his first sip, and then to have that like watch him have an aha moment with it. It was really very cool to see.
That is magical. I love that. I love to hear that.
It was
That's my hope.
I mean, honest. Like
That's
there's
so
something
nice.
beautifully honest about
Yeah.
someone experiencing a whiskey that they really like. You can't you can fake the words, you
Yeah.
can fake the jargon around what you're getting in the glass, but the eyes don't lie when you're
So true.
watching someone enjoy something. They
That's
either
so
light up or they
magical.
don't, you know?
Oh, I'm so sad I missed that. That sounds just absolutely magical. That's the dream, you know? That's the dream when you make a whiskey.
Well, it's just and then what was the one before that? The 22. The 22 was also just a freaking wonderful. So I want to
That's
dig
why
into
I
that.
chose that liquid as the follow-up because I thought 22, so I
Was
didn't make
freaking
22-year-old.
stellar,
It was
man.
stunning, and
Oh my
also
god.
drank so much younger than it was. Like, if you poured 22 for somebody and didn't tell them its age, there's no way they would guess 22 years old. So 30 to me did the same thing. Blade and Bow 30. It's like, if I didn't tell you that was a 30-year-old whiskey, you would never guess.
Which I want to go back to that a little bit
Yeah.
because the usual methodology behind an age stated bourbon is that low and slow. It is
Yeah.
to cool it down. Maybe not, the cellar mentality. The keep
Yep.
don't let the temperatures go crazy, and you'll not eat into that oak as quick. Uh,
Yes.
with what you were just explaining about the warehouses, could you expand on that a little bit on how that because it almost sounded like
Yeah.
the aerodynamic nature of the warehouse was creating that longevity, but I would love to understand that a little better.
I mean, you and me both, right? I think the funny thing, especially when you're in these ultra aged whiskeys, like the sample size is so small. It's really hard to draw conclusions, off of such a teeny tiny percentage of the total whiskey. But I can tell you that that ethos is not what created these whiskeys. So far, almost everything I've actually liked and kept and bottled was 6th or 7th floor of a rick house, which is completely counter to that commonly understood methodology and approach to achieving ultra age, and certainly not what I expected. I think certainly the airflow has something to do with it. For 30-year-olds, so for Blade and Bow 30-year-old, the biggest driver for that one that I think allowed it to hit that number and still be as lovely as it was consolidation midway through maturation. So about halfway through the maturation of those barrels, you know how angel share works, right? Like, so you have 100 full barrels, 15 years later, they're about half full. You then take all that whiskey, dump it into a tank, and then refill those same barrels, but full. So now instead of 100 half full barrels, you have 50 full barrels, and you put those back in the rick house. And so now you've sort of put a pause and restarted that level dropping, and that's bottom part of the barrel is when you really get into that snowball effect of, like, you've gone below the halfway point, you have a really high surface area to volume, a lot of air in the barrel, and the staves on the top are drying out, so, like, they tend to you lose vapors more quickly. It just becomes a snowball effect of, like, which causes it to go faster, which causes it to go faster, which causes it to go faster, and that's how you end up with this, like, really, really oaky or sometimes just empty, barrels that are of high age. So the consolidation was hugely impactful for Blade& Bow 30. That's why it's so alive and does not drink its age, but it's not necessary. So the 31-year-old Stitzel Reserve was not consolidated, but it was a much smaller percentage of those barrels that were still in a place where I wanted to blend with them, right? So the Blade& Bow 30 was I started with like 90 something barrels and got a pretty sizable amount of whiskey. I think I selected over 40 of them for the actual blend of 30-year-old. The 31-year-old, I started with roughly the same number, got 176 bottles because I only used 13 barrels, and a third of them were empty. So it's all just different tools, you know?
Always a master class when I talk to you. Just listening to that just made me want to do that. Like, just maybe it is so interesting the logic that goes into making it what it is.
I
And
mean, don't
good
oversell it as
lord.
logic. This is luck as much as anything, you know?
Oh
Like,
no, I get that 100%. You could have
yeah.
consolidated and the consolidation may not have paid off. Like we were talking about a minute ago.
Totally.
Like,
Yeah.
just doing it doesn't always make it good.
No,
But
and I think that's what I was thinking about. Like when you imagine when this was happening, it's the exciting thing is some of it's happening again today because the main motivator for that, because this is a lot of work, is you need those 50 barrel spaces because your warehouses are really full. Uh, so it's not like, oh, I'm making this so that 15 years from now, Nicole can make $1,000 bottle of whiskey. It's like, I need 50 barrel spaces. So here's what I'm going to do to like practically solve for that. And just, I'm incredibly, incredibly lucky that they let me poke around and find these barrels.
Well, that is the full circle moment of what I'm excited about, which is 15 years from now. Like,
I
you look
know.
at everything that has been laid down since this last boom we've gone through, and
I
look at
know.
how even now people, because you make keep my math straight, you make your projections,
Yeah.
you lay down what you estimate it is going to be based off of the desire for goods right now, and sometimes you're up, sometimes you're low. But when things were put down in the past 10 years, there's only been more and more put down. There will be barrels for
I know.
25 years from now, Nicole, to play with and do wonderful things with. Like, that
I
part
mean,
is going to be
it's so
awesome.
tough. It's like it's so tough because I think actually it was Max Shapiro had a great quote when he was opening JBI. He was 2 years ago, and he's been in the industry forever, and he's like, I've never had the right number of barrels once. You know, it's always like, oh, you have way too many, or you don't have nearly enough. I've never once gone into a meeting and heard like you have the right number of barrels. You have the exact right amount of whiskey. It's never happened.
You did it.
So the it's always frustrating in some direction or another, and, like, the last few years were I mean, they were great for the people working in the industry, tough for consumers, like, things with bourbon boom, like, things are de-aging, you're getting a lot of, like,
Whackety
skeptical
smackety.
quality things, like, it it's people are trying to meet more demand than they have supply, which leads to a lot of, behaviors, but it's great if you work in the industry. It's great for the workers. It's great for the people making whiskey in a lot of ways. Like the cash that came from that is what enabled Diageo to let me do my nonsense and not care. Now we're on the flip side of that, and it's very exciting for me as a whiskey maker. In some ways, it's like a sea of whiskey to work with, and that exact thing you're talking about, like, age statements are gonna come back, and, like, people are gonna get to get really selective about blends, and, like, the whiskey industry that we remember from, like, the late 2000s, early 2010s is gonna come back. How exciting. But also pretty rough for the folks that work in this business? Like, it's hard to I would say joy is not the primary emotion that I'm feeling
100%.
right now?
It is it's almost like if you wanted to make like the comparison to how whiskey actually goes in and out of the barrel to get better, uh,
Yeah.
the the bad part is you never want to see anybody go out of business. You never want to see any of your friends go without work.
Really
Um,
tough.
that's and you can't underscore that enough. Like, there's no part
No,
of that that is good.
no,
Uh,
it doesn't feel great, but
the
hopefully it'll make us stronger in the end,
extraction
you
of it
know?
though is that
Yeah.
the people that got into it for the wrong reason. Like when it expands, everybody jumps in, tries to make some money off of it, right?
Yes. I'm
You've
not
seen
that
it.
sorry to see, like, the VCs go out and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
So the people
yeah,
that are going to go, the people that were doing that, they won't make it because I think the originality and craftsmanship is going to be what perseveres. And I'm rambling through what I'm trying to get at, which is the last time this happened, the industry wasn't as forward thinking as it is now.
that's
So
true.
when you were still coming up, the people that were enjoying the liquid that had been put down for that first boom era, they were
Yeah,
coming out of the generation of good, one way of making it. This is how it's
yes,
done whiskey making. And
yes,
now, when this next stuff comes up, you're going to have the punk rock kids holding the
totally.
reins of what gets made.
Yeah, you're gonna have some really interesting, like, 20-year-old American single malts,
Oh,
that have been
yes.
floating around and, like, some weird peated rye that's been, like, sitting yeah, you're gonna have some really interesting things. Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's a cyclical business. It's like it's the nature of it.
but to enjoy it with empathy for those that have come before you. I mean, that's
Yeah.
also the whole human experience part of it, where it builds the appreciation you have for the goodness in the glass, knowing that so much has gone into making it.
And it makes me feel more and more like enjoy the moment, drink the whiskey, like
Well,
while we're all here
that
making it,
Cascade Moon's
like
going away. It's going away as soon as we're done today. Just glug glug
correct.
glug.
It's for drinking.
Yes, 100%. It's for drinking. It's for sharing as well.
Mhm.
So I'm actually neighbors with Bill from the Black and Brown podcast. Maybe I'll call him over and we'll ceremoniously send it to Valhalla.
Nothing would give me more joy.
Nothing would give me more joy than finally jumping into this battle. You like that
Yeah,
segue?
let's get it.
That was
Let's get
seamless,
it.
right?
Mhm.
The
That's that pro podcaster move right there.
it's easier on stage because I can just literally turn to the right and talk about something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, you've sent
So
me,
anyway, yeah.
yeah. So I was talking about X, Y, and Z. Uh, but this is the
Mhm.
12-year that you have sent
Yes.
me. We were talking about how you put it together.
Yes.
To anybody that is discovering Blade and Bow for the first time, I'm lucky. I'm sitting here with you, the main contributing factor of fun at Cascade. Contributing factor of fun.
Sure.
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 Let's
Yeah,
say
sure.
we'll
Whatever.
get it. We'll get
Yeah.
it by the
We're gonna
end of
workshop
this.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, what would you want them to know if they're just getting to this bottle for the first time? If this is their first experience with Blade and Bow, what do you want someone to know going in?
I would say the principle of this place and this brand is about enjoying the finest things, right, in life. And this is one of the finest things. It's about that Southern hospitality, that experiential lifestyle, that outdoor lifestyle, the things of like the person that just lives in the moment, right? And that's what this whiskey express is. Like it's just a beautiful whiskey. It should be elusive. It shouldn't be like, oh, this is a port finish bourbon and like let me get into that because it's not. It's wow, like this is so lovely. This is so sophisticated, so balanced, it's so curious. There's so much here. But actually, that means that rather than sitting around and dissecting it, I can just like put it in a flask and go on a walk, or like put it on ice and just enjoy it because it's just beautiful bourbon. It's not try hard bourbon. It's just beautiful, balanced, complex, interesting bourbon.
I
So
love it.
don't try and piece it apart because you won't be able to.
Love it. Love that. Yeah, as you were walking me through what went into it, it's like, oh my goodness. Like every
Yeah.
part of this just seems like you've got volume, you've got texture, you've got like all
Yeah.
of these things perfectly like puzzle pieced together.
Yeah.
And I'm
When they're
going
really
in.
done well, it should be invisible.
Oh,
Like,
well said.
when
Well
that work
said.
is really, really, really done well, it should be invisible. Um, it's very silly, but I guess because I'm a horse girl, because that's, a thing that I like, when you're riding well, it should look effortless, and it is very much not, but I guess same as like a ballet dancer or something, like if you're really good at it, it should look effortless and it should then become about the art and not like you shouldn't see the pieces of everything that went into it. And hopefully this whiskey comes across the same way.
I love that. Well, the nose is immediately inviting. I'm going to follow your lead and not try to dissect it. I will say
Yeah.
that everything that you have coming out of the top of this is enjoyment. Like there's not one note coming out of this nose where you're like, you don't have
No.
to go, wait, what? Oh, I think I maybe what?
Yeah.
Huh? It's just, ooh, this is
Ooh,
something that
yeah.
is
Ooh, I wanna sip
inviting.
this.
Yeah,
Ooh, yeah.
yes, 1,000%. So,
Yeah.
cheers.
Cheers to you.
Oh my goodness.
You can't see it because it's a podcast, but there's light in his eyes.
Well, there's just so like nothing's rushing through the door at the same time. Like everything is taking its time and it's finding you and it's oh wow.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like there's no crowding. Like if
Mm-mm.
for the palate. It's hitting the sections as it's supposed to.
Yeah.
It's it's almost like you're captain planeting the sections of the tongue where
We
like,
are Captain Planet.
oh my god, dude, it is freaking all coming together, and then it kind of crescendo, and there's no way it's crescendoing yet. This is just my first sip, but just
Mhm.
how it culminates into like that almost mid palate after already hitting front, sides, and then works its way back around to the middle.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear you say that.
Man,
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
if
hoping
this
for.
was Captain Planet whiskey, it'd be form of like you know, throw the glass in front
Indeed.
of the camera and say
Indeed.
form of
Form of,
whiskey.
yes. Mhm.
Mm. And like you're excited to go back for, oh my goodness, because then you go back for sip number two, the palate is
Mhm.
primed, and that is where the magic happens right there, isn't it?
It
Like
should
that
really
is,
invite you in. It should
yes.
really invite you in. And it really reveals, like, I mean, I think a good bourbon should be able to take cubes, like, put this on ice, add some water. It's 104.
I was gonna say
So,
it's
like,
104,
yeah.
right?
Mhm, mhm. So, which I think is where it sort of drinks really, really nicely while still having the structure to, take a cube. Like, it gets hot in Kentucky. I'm drinking my whiskey on ice right now.
I love the finish on this
Mhm.
because it's sort of instead of like you know how like hotter whiskeys will just hit bottom and like like you'll feel it all the way to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
hug,
to the stomach. Mhm.
where this is sort
The
of like
Kentucky hug, right?
it is like the tide like it doesn't uh, when the fire hits below, sometimes it just leaves the palate with it.
Yeah.
And this is not doing that. This is like working its way down, and it's sort of taking those sugars down the
Mhm,
sides with it.
mhm.
And it's
It should have like it's like a juicy
yeah,
mouthfeel,
oh
not
my sweet,
drying, like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
1,000%. Juicy is the best way to describe that.
yeah.
With a and the texture too. Like it somehow
Mhm.
got the viscosity and the juiciness without trading off the sugars for an overly dry. Like sometimes too
Yeah.
velvety can dry out the tongue, and
And
this
that's
has
that
that juice
magic of, like,
balancing.
a little bit of cognac, a little bit of port, a little bit of Bordeaux, a little bit of, muscatel, like that really interesting, like tropical. I mean, I'm betraying my rule and picking it apart, but
Well, you can
it
do that. It's yours. Like
it's
you actually know.
but the sum is greater than its parts, I guess, is the point, you know? They're all together. Just one of those things would be, like, interesting, but not excellent.
But I think the compliment is in how hard this must have been to pull off
Oh my god.
because
I
nothing's taking over. Like nothing, there's not one, like they all walk through the door at the same time, but they don't all try to sit down at the same time, if that makes sense.
I can tell you everyone who worked with me on this project has gray hairs, including me. As much as I've been working on it for years, like, the complexity of getting it out the door was just not in the center of Diageo's wheelhouse, you know? Everyone has gray hairs, especially if you ever meet poor Jordan, who actually, like, runs the finishing center at Stitzel, that poor guy, I think I owe him a case or 2, and the paranoia of, like, "Did I do it good enough?" Is I guess it will never leave me, um, but when you have that many things to tweak, like, you can really get lost in, should it be 14% or 14.1% or 14.2% of this component? And, like, you can really go down a bit of a rabbit hole, and I definitely did with this one a little bit. So, I've, like, it's fun to actually drink it with folks and, like, hear what people think because it pulled me out of my own head a little bit, and, right, the point is just good whiskey, like, it's just lovely whiskey, and I can tweak it again more. Like, I did have to stop at some point because you could just be, like, in tweaking forever, you
I was
know?
gonna say, how did you
Um,
know you were done?
well, I did have a deadline, so
Okay,
that helped.
okay.
Yeah, mhm, mhm, mhm.
Good lord.
Yeah,
Oh,
and we used that gif of, like, someone on a basically, like, sliding into home, like, many times, like, "This delivered this project, like, at the last possible." second, which is just not. I was like, no, I need to. Wait, I'm still tweaking it. I'm still tweaking it. They're like, you have to ship this whiskey. Like, no, I'm still tweaking it. Okay, like, okay, okay. Like, I finished it like right before the truck had to go.
That's the hard part of a labor of love, right? Like
Yes.
it does hold that piece. It holds on to you a little bit, and you can't bring yourself to let it go. Uh, but it was so ready,
Thank you.
Nicole. Like,
Thank you. I'm really pleased. I'm happy. I'm really happy with how it turned out.
man, yeah, good Lord. So where do you go from here? Like, this is absolutely beautiful. This is so well
Thank you.
crafted. Do you have I remember they asked Tarantino after he did Pulp Fiction, what did he have planned next? And he's like, let me enjoy this. So I'm not
I mean, I'm
trying to
already
be
working on the next bottling because it takes a really long time. Like, you have to go
I
through the
figured, yeah.
Solera a bunch of times, and like, I'm already working on like what do I want for the next round. Like where did I want to go a little differently. No, I mean the relentless pursuit of perfection is never achieved.
That's what
That's the
keeps us
thing. Like,
going. Yeah.
yeah, like I'll be working on making the most perfect whiskey for my entire career. That's
Uh,
keep
I
it
had a
going.
road dog comic tell me one time, there was some young person, he was getting off stage and he was super happy with himself. And the road dog took me aside and
That
said,
must feel wild.
that's what I yes, and that was his advice to me was if you ever get off stage and feel like you did it perfectly, you're either lying to yourself
Yeah.
or you're in the wrong business because that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
A-
That's the
And
first thing came to mind. I'm like, who do people feel that way? Like after they've
right?
done something, people are happy
No,
with themselves? That doesn't seem right.
from what I know about you, and it's the same way I am. If I get off stage, the first thing I'm thinking was I missed this, I missed that,
Yeah.
this was too long, this wasn't properly
I
timed,
could have done that a little
a
bit
little bit
better. Yeah.
different,
Or
a
like,
little
or
bit.
actually now I over engineered that part and now it's like not so natural. Yeah.
I mean, that's the tightrope, right? Like,
Yeah.
especially with how you're putting things together, you can't over like if you can make it
I
too
tried too
mechanical.
hard. I didn't try hard enough.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's never right.
Oof. Well, I think you got it exactly right on this
Thank
one,
you.
as it is an
Well,
absolute wonderful pour of
ultimately,
whiskey.
we can both remind ourselves, like, it's not that serious, right?
You're having fun doing it. Like the
Yeah,
purpose of
like
it is to
it's
be enjoyed.
yeah, I'm not, making sure people's basements don't floods with sewage
I
anymore,
was gonna
I'm
say you're
making
not in the
whiskey,
sewers
yeah,
of
like,
New
it's
York.
not that serious, yeah, yeah. I do have to remind myself.
Good Lord. Well, this, Nicole, is and we've done good. We've gone all over the place and we've stayed where we were supposed to be.
Look at
We
us.
we got with the whiskey,
Look at
and we
us.
still had a pretty damn good time talking
I
while
love
we were
chatting
at it.
with you. This was
Yeah, it's always
lovely.
a good time. It was
Thank
fun
you.
seeing you in Charlotte recently. I love seeing everybody come through Charlotte. It makes my job easier because I don't have to go to all these random places that we
Oh,
always
no.
have to go to.
I'm sure I'll be back because, that's one of our major markets, so I'm sure I'll be
Mhm.
back on my little Solera Reserve Grand Tour.
Hey, you got a lot of good people in this area
No.
making things happen. You've got Eli, you've got Heather, you've got all sorts of folks that are just
Yeah,
like spreading the good word.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I'm super lucky I've got an incredible group out there.
1,000%, 1,000%. And where can people is this going to be where can they get it? Is it out now? Is it going to be out
It is out
soon?
now.
Nice.
It's shipping. Today is currently May 19th. It is shipping out to markets in like 2 weeks.
Okay.
So, I think it's June 15th. I think it's mid-June. That you should expect to see it hit shelves, and it's regional, so it's not nationwide. I wanna say it's about 15 states, something like that. Certainly you'll have it in Charlotte, and oh, yeah, June 17th. So which is actually my birthday. Fun
Hey,
fun
happy
fact.
birthday,
So,
happy
yes, it's
early
officially
birthday.
launched on my birthday, which was not my decision, just to be clear. Uh it was not me. But yeah, it'll be, every state's schedules are slightly different, but you should start to see it by mid-June. And then, yeah, especially if you're in the Southeast, it should be relatively gettable.
It is a
Ohio as
Wednesday,
well.
so that means when it comes out on the 17th, you
Yeah.
can go get yourself a bottle. We'll make sure this comes out on the 18th. And
Yeah.
once you go get a bottle, you can crack it and you can listen to Nicole walk you through how it was made as you enjoy your first sip.
Yeah.
That is what I mean. I didn't cheat. I didn't have it before you and I talked. I wanted to drink it with you for the first time, and I can tell you it is a wonderful frickin' pour of whiskey, and I can't wait for people to try it. I think
Oh,
people are going to be
me
blown away
too.
by this.
Me too. Thank you so much. I love it.
Well, Nicole, let's not let it be like 4 years before we
Okay.
talk again. I would love to have
Was
you
it
back
4 years? We don't know. Was it 3 months? Was it 3 years? We don't know.
in
We
whiskey
don't
time.
know.
Who knows? You know,
Who knows? But
it,
yes,
the
let's
conversations
eh,
age like a fine whiskey,
indeed.
properly cared
Indeed.
for. Would you?
Indeed. Well, absolutely. Hopefully we'll talk soon.
I hope so. Thank you for the time, buddy.
Such a pleasure.
Cheers.